Today's program is about the Jeep, the American Jeep, which is an American icon. And there's a Jeep festival going on here, and this Jeep is being recognized as one of the most important vehicles in this country ever. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, former general of the Allied forces in World War II, and the one who commanded the invasion of D-Day in Normandy in June of 1944, said that the American Jeep helped win the American War, World War II. Now, a Jeep festival was conceived some years ago by Jack Cohen. He's the director of the Butler County Tourism and Convention Bureau here in Butler. And Jack, when this first idea came up, did you ever imagine what's happening now would have taken place?
No, I never thought we'd be this excited about Jeeps. This is wonderful.
Now, last night was a major parade in downtown Butler. How did that turn out?
We wound up having a little over 1,100 vehicles, and it was a lot of fun. It lasted 4 hours.
I know the streets of Butler were crowded with people, and I know
I understand the estimates were 35,000 people in town.
That's as big as it gets. Now, I know the parade started at the community college. Was it a continuous line to downtown Butler?
All the way into town.
Now, when you came up with this idea, did you ever conceive it would get to this point?
Yeah, we really thought it would take that long, and we thought that we could do a little bit more than that, too.
Now, tourism is important to Butler County, obviously, as it's important to many communities. Why is it so important?
Well, you think about the dollars it generates in revenues and keeps our tax base lower. That really helps every citizen of Butler County to keep their taxes lower the more people bring into our community.
Now, when you came up with this idea, how did you go about getting so many people all around the world interested?
Well, all about the marketing and the understanding of letting the word out. And when you say Jeep, it's just as good as Harley-Davidson. It has that brand that it'll carry across the country and internationally. And when those folks find out, they want to be here, and they're here.
Now, the Jeep was born right here in Butler County, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, 70 years ago. And we're excited that all these people remember that great history and want to talk about it and are excited about seeing all these wonderful old vehicles.
Are some of the original Jeeps here?
We do. We have 4 original Bantam Jeeps here. And those folks came from Chicago and Boston, and we had 2 here in town.
Now, there's some foreign visitors as well, I hear.
We do. We actually have folks here visiting us from Iceland and India and Canada. So we're really fortunate to have those folks here.
Well, Jack, do you think that most of the interest comes from people who maybe served in World War II in the original Jeeps?
Well, some of that, but a lot of it is just the average guys like myself that just drive Jeep and want to know about this rich history and want to be part of this.
So there's a lot going on out here at the Butler Fairgrounds.
There is.
What's happening?
Well, today is Saturday, and then we've got a big concert at night with fireworks at the end. But during the day, there's all types of vendors and food vendors and things for kids to do and families to see and lots of stuff to play with. So they'll be having a lot of fun today.
Are there some car representatives
We
here?
do. Jeep is here. Jeep Corporate's here. Everybody that's here represents vehicles in one shape or a form or another. So this is really fun, and the families are having a great time. And I'm glad that you've asked us these great questions. But I will tell you, this is insane. We're loving it, and it's insane with a smile. So we're just having fun.
Now, there's a history pavilion here, too, that people ought to get to.
Yes, there is. We have the complete history of the original Bantam, how it came to be, and I think it's a great thing for people to come and see.
Now, we're going to talk to Lee Bortmas about that. He's the local Jeep historian. I think he used to own a couple of these.
He did, but he's more than local. Lee is probably the most renowned in the world when it comes to Jeep. And he's an amazing guy, and he lives right here in Butler.
Jack Cohen, Executive Director of Butler County Tourism and Convention Bureau. Good luck today. It sounds like a wild hit.
Well, we're having fun, so come on out and have a great time.
Next, let's talk to Lee and see what the history of the Jeep is all about. Lee Bortmas is the local historian about the Jeep. He's owned some of the original Jeeps. He's been studying the Jeep history. He probably knows more about the Jeep than almost anybody I've ever heard of. Lee, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Larry.
When did you own one of the original Jeeps?
I have owned, of the 42 Jeeps that are Bantam Jeeps that are now in existence, I have owned 4 and restored 5.
What about the original that was originally the prototype? Is that still around?
The prototype is not around. After testing around a month down at Camp Holabarg, Maryland in September of 1940, it was driven back to Butler, and there it was taken all apart, and strengths and weaknesses were determined before they started the production of the 70 that they got a contract for for their bid and their prototype being accepted at Camp Hollabarg.
Well, now, how was it, Lee, that a small company, the Bantam Car Company in Butler, got involved with a military vehicle that became one of the great vehicles in military history?
Well, in 1933, the American Austin Car Company, which was the forerunner of the Bantam Company, loaned vehicles to the Army, pickup trucks, and they liked them. They weren't four-wheel drive, of course, but they were small, they could be hidden easily, and they could haul the loads that the Army needed. Then again, in 1939, the Bantam people, the same plant, change of names, they loaned the Pennsylvania National Guard a number of vehicles, and they liked them. So when the bid form and the specifications came to Bantam, when they were nearly broke, they said they felt that they had their foot in the door with the Army, and they felt that building small cars for the last 10 years, they could build this and then win the contract, and they would be solid once again. They would have money coming in and selling Jeeps to the Army.
But it's interesting, when the Army needs something, they need large quantities of something. And of course, the Bantam Car Company was a small company that probably couldn't produce a lot.
Well, that is true. We could produce about 30 an hour, 30 a shift, or 90 a day. Ford and Willys had the capability of turning one out every 2 minutes. But had we won the contract, we would have had the money to retool, and we could have done the same thing.
Lee, so often you hear that the big guys have connections with the military and the U.S. government, purchasing people, and have a foot in the door where a small company doesn't have a chance. How did Bantam capitalize on just the opposite of that?
Well, they could get the prototype, which was desperately needed by the Quartermaster Corps and the Army. They could do that in 49 days. Willys wanted 75 days, and Ford wanted even a longer time to produce a prototype for testing. And so since Bantam produced a prototype within the allotted 49 days, they won the contract to build the next 70 and be delivered to Camp Hollabarg prior to December 1st, 1940. So we were delivering our Bantam Jeeps to the Army and the Quartermaster Corps even before Willys or Ford delivered their prototype for testing.
Now, the Jeep we're seeing here was developed in a very, very short time. Who was the genius that was able to do that so quickly?
Well, there were a number of people involved. The main design engineer was Carl Knight Probst, Probst. He was from Detroit, and he, of the 50 top automobile designers in the world, he was probably in the first 5. And he did the design work. In other words, he did the blueprints.
Yeah, but how did a little company like Bantam get a guy like that to come on board?
Well, Frank Fend, who was the general manager, Harold Christ, who was their head mechanical engineer, Ralph Turner, who was the second mechanical engineer, and Chester Hempfling, who was the chief mechanic at the plant, sat down with this list of specifications, which they received in June, and they tried over a period of 2 weeks to take all the Bantam parts and try to build one of these, and they decided they couldn't do it because the Army specs would require a heavier car that could do more than the Bantams could, so they needed a design engineer. So they called Carl Probst, and they convinced him to come to Butler, and he did the drawings in less than 18 hours, and he did the cost estimates, and they were able to fill out the bid form and take it to Washington and to get it accepted.
And right behind us is an example of one of the first production models from the Bantam Company.
This was built in 1941, but there were 70 built in 1940. So this was built probably either between January 1st, 1941 and May 1st, 1941, or between May 1st, 1941 and December 1st, 1941. All our Bantams were delivered to the Army 6 days prior to Pearl Harbor.
What's amazing is General George Marshall said this was America's greatest contribution to modern warfare. That really says something about the Jeep that was built right here in Butler.
Right, and General Eisenhower said if it wasn't for the Jeep, the landing craft, and the DC-3 airplane, we wouldn't have won the war. and General Stilwell down in Burma, who was trapped by the Japanese and couldn't make his way out of the jungle, made his way out, and the British said, "How did you do that? It's impossible to get out of that." He said, "We had Jeeps." Now, they weren't Bantams, but he said, "We couldn't have won the war without the square-bodied Jeep."
Lee Bortmas, thank you.
You're quite welcome, sir.
And now we're going to talk to some people, not only about the history, but also some modern people, people who are all over the world that think the Jeep is the greatest vehicle that was ever made. We'll talk about that with some of them in just a few moments. We're really fortunate because coming here to this festival from Palo Alto, California, is the grandson of the person who designed the first Bantam Jeep, the first Bantam car that became the GI's most important car during World War II and beyond. Richard Probst, good to see you. Now, you must have been hearing about this whole situation most of your life.
I grew up hearing this story. When I'd go to bed, my father would tuck me in and tell me the story about how the Jeep was created by his father. So it was my favorite story. He'd always want to tell me a different story, and I'd say, no, I want to hear the Jeep story again. Tell me that story. So I've grown up with the story all life long.
Now, what was the family's story? What was the image of creating the Jeep as far as the family was concerned? We know what the world thinks of it, but was it as big a deal as we think it is?
Well, when my grandfather was designing the Jeep for Bantam, my father was in his 20s, and he had a lot of other things on his mind. So he didn't realize history was being made. And of course, when I was younger, I didn't realize that my grandfather had done something so historical. But we both of us, later in life, figured out this is something worth paying attention to. So my father spent a lot of time finding out what had really happened, talking to his dad, and also doing some research. And I've carried on that tradition. I have a lot of the papers that my father gathered together, and I've continued to look into the story. It's a fascinating story, a lot of human drama and excitement in terms of how this came to be.
Well, did your family ever own a Bantam Jeep?
No, and I really would love to own a Bantam Jeep. I mean, what a great piece of history that would be to actually have one of those devices. I've talked with some folks who have them, of course, and I just really envy them.
Were there any records, any designs, any paperwork that went with this that maybe was passed down to your father and yourself?
Yes, what I do have is something that my grandfather wrote when he was elder in his years. He actually sat down and typed up his memories of how he had gone through the process of designing the Jeep. So I do have a copy of that, and I'm looking forward to turning that into something that maybe gets published one of these days.
So there might be a book in the Probst family automobile history.
Well, that would be fun. Actually, my father wrote books on cars, so there already are several Probst car books, but I'd love to add to that list.
And you came here as the grandson of the designer of the Bantam Jeep, all the way from California for our Jeep Festival here in Butler.
Exactly right. I'm just really impressed with how Butler has put on this tremendous festival. I think it's a great idea because, Jeep owners are Jeep lovers, and if you give them a reason to come and celebrate that wonderful history and the fun of owning a Jeep, it's good for the local economy, I'll tell you that. And also, it's just, for me, it's been a tremendous source of pride to see all of these Jeeps and to see the great turnout and to see how much people love this vehicle. And there's a reason to love it. It's just a piece of art, It's fantastic how that car was designed and how it's carried forward all these years.
Richard Probst, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We're going to be seeing something in just a little while which is astounding. Now, of course, this Jeep Festival features everything about Jeep. But the one thing a lot of people don't realize is there's a team here from Canada that can disassemble and reassemble a Jeep all in 3 minutes. Now, they're from the Armed Forces of Canada, and with us is Sergeant Tim Ware. Now, Tim, it's hard to believe you can do this. How did all this start? How did you get to this point where you're demonstrating taking apart a Jeep and putting it back together?
Yeah, it originally originated in 1993 when we used 2 of these Jeeps. We have one sister Jeep along with this, and we used it as a recruiting drive for the mechanics in the Canadian Armed Forces. And we would take the Jeeps to recruiting festivals or exhibitions, and we'd show the Jeeps being disassembled and reassembled as a recruiting tool.
Tim, where did the idea come from?
The mechanics in the Canadian Forces had the spare Jeeps, and just over time as a hobby, after hours, they were just put the idea together, and then on their own time, they assembled these Jeeps that we have now and behind us. So.
Now, assembling and disassembling is one thing, but doing it in 3 minutes, how many people does it take to do it?
Yeah, we can do it with 6. We do have 2 spares because if it's uneven ground and stuff for safety, that we have those extra guys just so the frames and jacks don't move. So usually it's 6 guys, but we do have 2 extra spares for safety. On disassembling, we basically will drive it into the spot, and we pretend that it's broken down, and one of our guys will get out and open the hood, and he'll see if there's something he can do. And as soon as he says he can't, that's when all the boys will jump out and disassemble it, reassemble it, and then as a miracle, or we hope, it'll start and we can drive off.
Does it ever not work?
It is an older Jeep, and we have had troubles this weekend with the carburetor and stuff. So it is a 68, and we are rough on it because we do throw it around a lot. You'll see that in the demonstration. So because we're a little more rougher on it, we do have to paint it more frequently, and we do have to keep up the maintenance on it. So yeah, it could, in theory, not start. So.
Now. Give out, turn.
Sergeant, how do you prepare the Jeep to be able to do what you do?
We take about a week before any event, and we get the new team together. We usually try to have one person for continuity, and then through a couple hours each day, we practice disassembling and assembling, and take the time to wax it and change the oils and try to maintain it. It's definitely one of the enduring parts of having an older Jeep is the upkeep of it. So.
Now, once you have it reassembled, is it in full working order, or do you have to tinker with it sometime later to get home?
Yeah, it is in full working order. The 4x, everything works in theory. It could go 60 miles or whatever. It doesn't have any limitations except for the fact that we've tinkered with how many wheel nuts, for example, are on it. So for safety, we don't drive it any further than just for parade shows. Yeah.
Sergeant, this is an amazing experiment. People are seeing exactly what you're doing, and I guess this really excites a crowd when they come to see the demonstration.
And it sure does. It's really a great event, and when we have both Jeeps and there's the 2 teams going at it, it's very competitive, and the time will drop significantly when we have 2 Jeeps because we don't want the other team to win.
Make it move forward. Other way, other way. Good.
Sergeant, thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
Sergeant Tim Ware, he's from the Armed Forces of Canada, and it's an amazing demonstration which you're seeing right before your eyes here at the Jeep Festival in Butler. Well, we've told you people are coming here to the Jeep Festival from all over the country and all over the world, as a matter of fact. Many different countries are represented here. From Mansfield, Ohio, we have some twin sisters, Carol Mowry and Nancy Knight. Well, Nancy, what brings you here?
I'm Carol.
Oh. And you must be Nancy.
I'm Nancy, but that's okay.
When did you decide to come here?
Oh, a couple months ago, we saw it advertised on a Cleveland radio TV station. And a couple months ago, we thought we want to be here, and here we are.
Now, what's the significance of your Jeep?
Well, when we turned 16 a couple years ago, our parents bought us this Jeep, and so we have lots of memories with it.
Carol, why pink?
They were manufactured this way. They were manufactured between 1959 and 1963. They came in 3 different colors, and they were made for the resort industry. Hotels in Hawaii, Acapulco, would buy fleets of them and then rent them out to their guests.
Hawaii, Acapulco,
Yeah.
and Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yes! In Mansfield, Ohio.
Were you surprised when you came out here to see how many Jeeps there were?
Yes, it was awesome. The parade last night was fabulous. We got teary-eyed. It was so great. People of Butler have been so warm and so welcoming. It's been great. It really has.
What was your impression of the parade?
It was awesome. That's the best way I can describe it. It was absolutely awesome seeing all those thousands of Jeeps and all different kinds, different colors. It was just wonderful, wonderful.
Of all the Jeeps that you've seen so far out here at the fairgrounds and also at the parade, which one struck your attention?
One of the military ones that the lady was showing us, they had certain special famous people sign the dashboard of it, and one was the gentleman that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and things like that. That was emotional.
Now this is the first, what they hope will be the first annual Jeep Festival. Do you plan on coming in future events?
Oh, I think so, because it's no car show that you go to is as special as this. One thing, they're all Jeeps, and another thing, everyone loves your vehicle because it is a Jeep.
Did you run into any people from foreign countries?
Yes, India, Australia. Was there any? Virginia.
That far away. Now, how did the people get here from Australia?
Well, I guess we heard they flew it over or by ship or something. I'm not quite sure.
Now, where you live in Mansfield, Ohio, are there many Jeep owners that you get together with?
No, there isn't. And we're, of course, the only Surrey Jeep, but because there's few and far between. We've only found 18 Jeeps in existence, like ours, the Surrey one. So, no, as far as that one, no. But we always wave to those Jeep people as we drive by.
Now, when you get to see some of the people dropping by to see your Jeep, because it is unique, because of the unique color, and a lot of people seem to be aware that the year, the 1960, is significant to them too.
Yes, well, some of them make us feel bad because they say that's the year they were born. And that's just, that makes us feel bad, but that's okay. That's okay. It's nice that people recognize the year and think of the special things that might have happened in 1960s.
Well, folks, it's nice to meet you both, and
thank you
nice
so
to see
much.
twins
Thank
and a
you.
special Jeep back here, and maybe we'll
so
see you
much.
next year.
Oh, we hope so.
Okay.
Another state heard from, Virginia this time, Galax, Virginia, here at the Butler Fairgrounds, and this is where we have the Jeep Festival, of course. And Anna Paisley's with us, along with Joe Murray. Anna, how are you? This is your Jeep right here?
Yes, it is. My Jeep, I've had it for 12 years, and we found out about this, and we wanted to come to the event, and here we are.
How'd you find out about it?
Four-wheel drive, I believe it was.
Four-wheel drive magazine.
Yes. And so here we are, like I said.
Are you surprised at what you see there, Joe?
Yes, I've really enjoyed this event.
What have you seen so far?
Well, just all different models, types of Jeeps, off-road to traditional to military vehicles. You know, we're really impressed with the military aspect of the Jeep and the history of the Jeep. And that's what brought us up here to Butler. Wanted to tour around, hopefully even see the factory where they were made, and we have really enjoyed this event.
Did you get to see the factory?
I haven't yet, no, but we're going to find out more about it. We understand maybe it's going to be restored. We're not exactly sure about all the.
Well, there's talk. It's an abandoned building right now. It's old and run down, but that's the place where back in the 1940s, early 1940s, that's where the Jeep was developed and designed. And they're hoping, as you indicated, they're hoping somehow to make that into an historic museum for the Jeep and for other purposes.
I see. Okay. Well, we're very interested in finding out more about it, and we hope that they continue this event here, for years to come.
Now, Anna, when you came out here, did you expect to see so much?
No, I didn't. No, this is more Jeeps than you could ever expect to see in one place. But it's really been something else. It really is. It's spectacular.
Have you met people from many different places?
We've met them from all over. I can't remember all the states and all, but we have met them. And they're really nice people. They're all Jeep fans, and you can't help but love them all.
Now, does it surprise you, Joe, that that people came here from foreign countries?
Well, yeah, we were surprised when we read about that, and we'd been getting the emails about the Jeep event, and we heard the Canadians and Australia, and I forget a couple of other countries I think were involved, and that's been enjoyable. And actually, we met the Canadian team and talked with them, and we've enjoyed watching their event. So.
They took apart that Jeep in 3 minutes and put it back together again?
Unbelievable, yes.
I think the unbelievable part is there were no parts left out.
No, that's right, and it runs.
That's right. Yeah. Were you in the parade?
Yes, we were.
What'd you think?
Oh, man, we had a spectacular time. I mean, really enjoyed the event. We started out, we were wondering, are they really going to be able to launch this thing at 6 o'clock because there were so many of us? And but they did. They pretty much got it off on time and just started touring up the street and just waving at people. I mean, I was surprised at the turnout here. And a lot of people enjoyed looking at the Jeeps and seeing us come up the street. And had a great time.
Now, the parade started last night at the Butler County Community College.
Yes.
Did the whole string end up in Butler? Was it all one big string?
It was all one big line coming up Highway 8 and just ended up in downtown Butler. And yeah, just one basically big line all the way up through.
Anna, this is the first of what we hope will be maybe an event every year up until at least 2015, which would be 75 years. Do you expect you might come back?
Oh, yes, I'm sure we will. We really enjoyed this one, and I'm pretty sure we'll be back. Probably another Jeep, because I own 3, and so we'll probably be back.
Why do you like the Jeep so much?
What it stands for, what it's done for the country. It's the beginning of all this, and what they did in World War II and all, it's unreal. So, they're just a beautiful vehicle, and I just love them. I love them.
Folks, it's nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. This Bantam Jeep Festival here in Butler, Pennsylvania has amazed people. What's been amazing from the very beginning, when the parade last night started at the community college, the thousands of people that were along the parade route going all the way up Route 8 to the city of Butler. And then the many thousands, some are saying 35 to 40,000 in the city of Butler to watch the parade of 1,200 or 1,300 Jeeps from all over this country and many foreign countries too. This has been a great time, and what we're hoping will be maybe the first annual Bantam Jeep Festival here in Butler. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.